After the last couple of episodes have been so tense, this episode acts as a bit of a palate cleanser and a bit of a calm before the storm. I'll give you my thoughts and reactions to the latest episode of Snowfall right after the jump. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. Yes, we are all still recovering from that insane finale of the last episode. But we're here on episode 7 called The Charnel House, called just Charnel House, which had to look it up because I didn't know what that meant. Charnel House is defined as a place where a building where bodies are kept or where extreme violence occurs and is built upon that, which this episode is sort of saying we're laying the brickwork based on the violence that occurred with Jerome's body and being gone. We're now creating these alliances, and these people are resetting who they are and what they are planning to do with the rest of their life as we finish off this final season. We pick up with right after the aftermath of Jerome's death, and they're at the funeral home, and they are dropping off Jerome's body, and Franklin is asking the caretaker to say, hey, keep this quiet, keep this off the radio, keep this off the police, we don't want this. And Louis seems to be calm in that moment, but once Jerome has to be taken away from her so they can prepare the body, she starts to lose it again. At this point, Franklin and Louis are not looking at each other, having any type of conversation with each other. They are very much both in pain, both feeling this, but not having that feeling together or having any type of conversation together. Lee takes Louis home and drops her off and asks if she needs anybody to stick around and stay there. Like, do you need me to call Buckley? Do you need me to stay here with you? She's like, no, why? The war's over, ain't it? Like, the battle was done. I'm being a bit facetious, but she's like, I'm good. She steps into that house, and like anybody who's had somebody who's passing, where you were married to somebody who passed, or you were even the kid of a parent who passed, going back into the home that you used to live in, that you share together, where you have all those memories for the first time, it's gut-wrenching. She steps in that home, looks around, looks at the wedding gifts that they all have there, and it's kind of just, it's a thing that your brain does, that you are not quite understanding that you don't have access to that person anymore. And that's sort of what's happening to her in that moment. She also, first time, sees herself in the mirror, which she had not seen the full amount of damage that had taken place to her at the hands of Cain. So she gets hit with both of those and going through a lot of grief, pain, and PTSD. You see Teddy with Parissa at the stash house, the new rental stash house that he has, and he's being super careful. He's closing up windows. He's doing all of this. Parissa is being very tongue-in-cheek about all of this. And then Julie shows up. And Julie shows up pregnant. And Julie knows Parissa. They know that they have a history. She did not know that they were back together. She kind of was like, well, you didn't tell me that you guys were back together. Teddy's like, well, you didn't tell me about the baby that's in your stomach. He's like, all right, touche. They continue on, and Julie sort of checks Teddy like, hey, look, I don't know what the hell you got going on. Give the money back to Franklin. And Teddy's pretty adamant about, no, it's my money now. This money was seized by the government, blah, blah, blah. He's using whatever excuse he can to say, nope, I'm keeping this money. And Julie brings up a point, like, you didn't even like your dad. Your dad was a tyrant. And you're now on this war for this, and you're putting myself in danger, but you're putting the only good thing that ever came from us, our kid, in danger. So fix this, or I'm going to fix it for you. He's kind of like, what does that mean? I'm going to do a public execution, which I gathered to mean that she's going to expose all of this and put his name through the mud. And the one thing that Teddy wants more than anything is to make sure that his name is sort of restored back into glory. Like, he wants to be put back into the CIA. He wants this, but he's being overly ambitious in doing so. So he's putting himself, Parissa, and the few people that he cares, his child, back into danger. This was the scene that I thought is going to kick me in the face. Mentioned in the last episode, the only person who did not know that needed to sort of know this about Jerome's passing was Sissy. And so Franklin goes home to inform Sissy about what happened to Jerome. And so he steps in the house. Mind you, Wanda and Sissy are staying together in their own home. Goes to the house. Wanda's like, well, where's Lee? And like Lee's like, he took Louis home. And at that point, some inferences start being happened because if Lee is taking a Louis home, where's Jerome to do so? Sissy follows up with Jerome, and Franklin just sort of gives that nod, like the small, you ain't coming home. And the next thing we see is that Franklin takes Sissy to the funeral home to sort of just look at the body. One, I mean, they already know it's not a matter of identifying the body. It's not the police, but she goes to see her brother, and she asks, did he suffer? And Franklin's like, no. He then tries to comfort her. He puts her hand on the shoulder, and she just brushes that off. It's like, nah, I don't want that. Because at the end of the day, while this may be at Kane's hand, while Louis may have had hand, like this all comes down to Franklin got them in this mess. So he is responsible. She can't hate her son. She still loves him, but you did take my brother away from me and got my husband taken away from me. So all this stuff you're doing has caused me to lose multiple people that I care about. And it's going to take you away if you keep at this. The next day, Parissa sides with Julia. She's like, no, Julia's right. Why are you holding on to this money? Like, what's the point of all of this? But then it gets weird because Teddy's kind of like mentions the 73 million, and she's like, well, it alludes to I should probably have some of that. And Teddy's like, is that what you want? Parissa's sort of playing this game, saying, look, I'm at risk. I know I'm at risk. You know I'm at risk, but I'm all in. Like, I'm all in on you. I'm all in with you. So whatever we're doing, I'm willing to do this together. I now have a red flag with Parissa. Because Parissa's always been playing this game, and this has probably been their history the whole time, where she's like, hey, love you. We're going to play this coy game of will I, won't they? But for her to, one, be in a dangerous situation and be allowed to live and go through and be put into another place, and then her coyness with this and her telling, I feel like Parissa is going to be the one that turns on Teddy. Like, Teddy is going to be looking at all these other options to sort of, hey, who's coming after me? Who's coming after me? Who's coming after me? And it's going to be the one that's inside. Because when you start giving away $73 million or even a quarter of that, allegiances and alliances don't matter as much. And I feel like Parissa is a person who's smart enough to look out for herself versus whatever this head case that Teddy is sort of putting in front of her. It appears, I think Louis is going through the wedding gifts, which just seems torturous. She gets a knock on the door, and it's Sissy. And Sissy comes in, and they have a talk. And Sissy lets her know that, hey, I've seen my brother bring in women left and right. Women, even when you were around. He never loved them. Like, he's always loved you. He never looked at anybody or talked about anybody the way that he does you. He loved you. And Louis acknowledges and like, yeah, I know. Sissy then follows up with, all of this has to stop. Like, we've lost everything. We've lost enough. Jerome and Louis gets on the defensive and like, nope. All of this is because of Franklin. Franklin is the one who put all of this into motion. Sissy kind of is like, look, Franklin has had his faults. You have had your faults. I've had my faults. This is sort of all in all of us. We've all lost. And Louis like, I got nothing else to lose. You still got stuff you care about. And Sissy mentions that, like, I lost my husband, I lost my brother. So there is some type of level playing field, but she just there's still one piece that she cares about where Louis is like, I got nothing. I don't care about anything. I am just a ticking time bomb who does not care about anything else that happened. It's interesting because I think the internet and everybody, and I kind of agree with this, like, Louis is at fault for a lot of these things. And I think that's a huge piece of this. Louis is messy. Louis pushed Jerome a lot. Louis' decision to seek out money and greed and power has led to this ramifications. That doesn't absolve Franklin of a lot of fault as well. This whole game started because of him, but I think the not taking out Kane when you could have put this into motion as well. So there's a lot of fault on both sides. Neither Franklin or Louis seem to be acknowledging their part in this passing or this death. she seems to be blaming it all on Franklin, and Franklin just seems to be sort of oblivious to it all. Because in the next scene, he's walking with Lee. He asks Lee for a favor. He's like, "Look, am I good on credit? Can I get 500,000, like $500,000?" We know as the audience, he's trying to go do that to give Gustavo money so that he can bring him Teddy. Lee doesn't really ask any questions. He's like, "What is this for?" He's like, "No, it's for a plan. It's my way out." Lee's like, "All right, bet. I got you." But as they're walking through the PJs and talking about, "Can't believe Jerome's gone," Franklin flippantly says, "Yeah, I just wish he never broke away from the family. Like, this would have never happened to him. He's not broken away." Bruh, do you not, that sounds, Lee even had to step back, like, what did you just say? Like, that's insensitive as hell. He's not aware of of what he played in this part. Jerome has a right to do whatever the hell he wants to. This doesn't mean he should be dead. But that is his way of dealing with grief, because then we see subsequently later on in the episode that he is having panic attacks and nightmares in the middle of the night. So it's just a kid's way or an ignorant way of saying how he feels about this, but it's clear that there's more to it. So we get the two nightmare scenarios from both of them. Louie is having nightmares, waking up in cold sweats. She starts looking for keys and like freaking out, looking out for stuff that can kind of help her calm down, but she's got nothing. She gets in a car, which is always a bad idea. She gets in a car, emotional, freaking out, and she makes her way to Scully's place. And she gets to Scully and kind of is like, "Hey, Scully, you lost your daughter and your girl because of all of this. How did you get to a point where you could be at peace, where you're not burning every single thing down that you possibly can?" And he's like, "I don't want to taint their memory or the love that they gave for me. I don't want to taint that. And I know that they're looking down on me and I don't want them mad at me. So I am pissed off. I'm angry every day, but that is what keeps me going. That is what keeps me afloat." We then see on the flip side, Franklin is having massive panic attacks and he can't breathe. He's waking up in the middle of the night and he's not able to breathe. And V is there to sort of console him and calm him and say he's going to be okay. But Frank's like, "No, I can't not be okay. I can't breathe. Like, this is wild." V asks, "Has this ever happened before?" He's like, "No." She tries to tell him it's going to be fine. And he's like, "Nah, this ain't normal." And so we see that the ramification, like while he tries to play, when he's awake, he tries to play calm and collected and say that he's got everything together, but it's clear that this is affecting him far more than he wants to put on. Gustavo wakes up and Ruben is sitting in his kitchen with a gun. And, and he's basically giving him an ultimatum like, "Yo, time's up. You gotta give me Teddy. Teddy now." Like, this is what it is. And Gustavo's girl wakes up and comes outside and sees Ruben there with a gun. She kind of gets freaked out. And Ruben's like, "Look, we can make this real simple. Bring me Teddy. Bring me Teddy now. I'll give you whatever assurances you want." Gustavo asks for things like, "I want money. I want this." She's like, "Look, I'm not going to give you the money that the Americans are going to give you, but I'm going to give you enough to get your life started going again. But I need this to happen, and I need this to happen ASAP. And if it doesn't, I don't want to come back to have to hurt people. So let's go ahead and just make sure this happens." And then he leaves, and Gustavo's girl closes the door and just kind of tells also like, "Hey, look, it might be best that me and the kid leave and you not know where we go. Like, this should be the point where we separate." And Gustavo kind of sadly says, "You might be right. Like, there might be time for that." Which is why I don't understand why he didn't do that in the first place. Like, you can figure out all of your life or getting out of this mess on your own. Send your kid and your girl away. She chose to stick around for whatever reason. That's sort of on her, but you're the guy, like, "No, you need to get away. Push them away so that then you can figure this out. If you die, cool. They're not hurt. But if you live, you can then find them later." But it has always been sort of confusing to me why Gustavo was trying to keep them around while he's just in the crosshairs of he's juggling so many balls in the air to try to make this work. For the first time in a long time, I had to give a big shout out to Wanda, because Wanda was smart enough to be like, "Yo, I got to get up out of here. I can't be here." And so a lot of the pain and fear that I've had for Wanda seems to have relieved itself a little bit. Also, because unfortunately news broke about a future spinoff series, but neither here nor there. In this episode, she's like, "No, I'm out. I'm leaving this place. I'm getting up out of here." She's like, look, I'm not leaving you. Because Lee's like, you leaving me? She's like, no, I'm not leaving you, but I'm leaving the PJs. Like, I can't be here. Like, I should be up in Ghana with my husband and some kids, popping out kids and living a great life. But instead, I'm here watching you clean guns so you can prepare for war. Like, I don't know how the hell we wound up back here. And Lee says, like, no, this is just temporary. Like, we gonna have all of that. I'm just here to fix the PJs a little bit and then pass it on to the next one. And Wanda's like, I've heard that story before, and I'm glad you're telling yourself that. But I'm not here for this. Like, we just saw Jerome get killed. I don't want any parts of that, and I don't want to be here to watch you fail and get taken out. Wanda then, as she's leaving, runs into Sissy, and Sissy's like, "You leaving?" And he's like, "No, that's probably the smartest thing." And Sissy's kind of sitting there like, "Well, look, since I can't leave here, I can't get out. Can you go run the shelter? Can you go take care of the shelter?" And she's like, "You really want me to do that?" And he's like, "Yeah, no, I think you're the best person to do that. You're the best person to carry that on. Go ahead and do that and take my apartment. No one's looking for you. You're not a part of the Saints part of this. So yeah, go for that. Go ahead and take that." Louie goes to one of her sisters to kind of get some more answers about like just figuring out life. And when they're talking, she's in the tub. She says, "I lost Jerome." This is what I was talking about earlier. She's in that room, and this just happens with death. Like, it takes a minute for your brain to realize that you can no longer call out to people. So people call a person over and over again after they die, just to try to hear their voice, hear their voicemail. Like, they're attaching themselves or gripping onto something that still exists from them, to sort of, because it takes a minute for the brain to sort of click, like, oh, I can't call this person anymore. So she's saying, I'm having a hard time realizing that I can't reach out to Jerome anymore. And she goes on to a story about a game that they used to play when they were kids, that the situation she was in was much more treacherous. While that was good about being strangled and getting $20, this was that times 10, and she couldn't do anything out there. She figured she was gone. She's like, there's nothing that I can do to get out of this situation. But then her pager keeps going off, and it just keeps going off and blowing her up, and it calls, and it's Teddy. And she's being mad, flippant, and disrespectful to Teddy. And Teddy's like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, let's meet. And she's like, look, I'll tell you when to meet. Like, it's contentious. And Teddy doesn't know what's happening on his end. So they do meet at a place, and that's when she's like, look, Teddy's like, I need you to bring me Franklin. And he killed my father. And Louie's like, okay, cool. Here's the deal. Tomorrow I'm going to bury my husband. And at that point, Teddy is aware that, like, wait, Jerome's dead. Like, what the hell? Like, he has no idea that, because he's been in his own world. He learns actually, like, look, tomorrow I'm burying my husband. I'm going to need you not to call me again until that day is over with. After that, I will give you Franklin on a silver platter. Like, you don't have to worry about, I will watch you cut that man from nuts to neck. Like, I don't care about him, and I will give him to you in any way humanly possible. So it seems like her way of finding peace is to be like, cool, I can find peace, I can find love, but I'm gonna make sure that my nephew, who I feel is putting me through all of this, he got to go. He can't be here no more. Also, in Franklin meet, and this is kind of Gustavo's last ditch effort to, like, figure out a plan to get out of this. He feels that he is dead to rights. He's got 3 crosshairs on him, and they all want Teddy. The KGB, the DEA, and Franklin all want Teddy. And he's trying to figure out the best deal or the way to sort of get out of this. And so at this point, he lets Franklin know that the DA got him. Like, they got him jammed up. And Franklin freaks out a little bit, puts a gun to him, points at him like, hey, yo, wait, what? Are they watching me? Like, you got me set up? And also, it's like, no, not you. I don't have anything set up. They don't want you. They want Teddy. Everybody wants Teddy. And there's photos of Louie that they got. They don't have you on any of it. So you're kind of not a big deal for them. That's who they want. They want Teddy. And Oso is kind of getting freaked out. He's like, I got all 3 on my head, and I just need a way out. And Franklin tells him, like, look, I can give you a day. I can give you a day. I can buy you a day to figure out some stuff. But I need you to give me Teddy immediately. Like, we need to end this with Teddy now. Meanwhile, we see Teddy's handler at the CIA talking with a bigwig over there in their office, tell you how little they think of the people of that world of LA, or the black people. The N-word gets dropped flippantly. Like, it's something he uses on a regular basis. Like, oh yeah, that N-word, blah, 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 blah. About that. That's just how he operates. But they learn that Teddy is a good guy, but maybe is a bit too ambitious, and now has created a bunch of holes that the CIA may have to figure out how to close. And so it's a matter of, is he worth this issue? Is he worth all of this trouble? Or do we need to kind of go ahead and remove him and figure that out? So now it looks like Teddy may have a problem with the CIA, and I still feel like Parissa is going to be the one that's kind of just like, you know what? Don't need this in my life. Give me that money. Give me the best deal, and I'm going to get up out of here. So the final sequence of this episode is the funeral, which is a wild situation. Because it's wild because you're seeing many different people of different factions come together, because Jerome was that one linchpin that sort of kind of combined everybody. Everybody loved Jerome. So you see Dee and Lee both there at the funeral. You see, obviously, Louis and Franklin, all these people who have issues with each other. Gustavo's there. Like, everybody has some sort of care for Jerome. He's like the neighborhood, lack of a better term, saint. And so they're all there, and it's pretty obviously a solemn situation. But now that Jerome's gone, the marker of hope or beacon of hope is just lost, and all bets are off. Like it's now the Wild Wild West. We get a moment with Wanda and Lee again, where she's just like, "I'm frightened of you. Like, I'm looking at Louis over there, and I don't want that to be me with you. Like, we just lost Jerome. I need you. You need to get up out of this." Franklin informs Oso that he's got something for him, and just come to the repass. And I got a surprise for you. We don't see the repass in this episode. Whatever that happens, that's going to be led to the next episode. And then we see Buckley dig himself out of his drugged up stupor to come to the funeral and pay his respects. And he goes up to Louis and says, "I'm sorry for your loss." And Louis checks him real quick, like, "Hey, yo, did my man didn't call you? He didn't need an extra gun at the spot. He didn't call you?" And Buckley's like, "Nah, you know that's some bull." And she knows it's some bull. She looks at him, "All right, cool, bet." And he just walks off. In a scene that has no words but says so much, Sissy and Louis at the funeral come face to face, and she grabs her arms. Now, mind you, earlier Sissy kind of gave Louis the like, "Hey, we need to end this and stop all of this." The look, they both are in pain. The look that Louis gives Sissy is like, "I'm not stopping. Like, you know, sis, I'm going to end this. Like, this is going to end, and it's going to get dangerous." And it's Sissy in that point kind of is like, she knows she has not done losing all that she's going to lose. There's one more piece of this that she's going to lose, and whether it be Louis or Franklin, she's going to lose something. And now that look sort of gave her that assurance, like, Louis not done. Dee at the funeral runs up on Lee and kind of is like, "Hey, yo, real quick, homie, y'all take care of the person who got Jerome." And Lee kind of nods, and he's like, "All right, bet." So while Dee was full armed to come after that spot, and he still might, in this moment, there was enough respect there that he's like, "I'm not coming after you here because you guys handled your business and you took care of what you're supposed to take care of. So you cool with me." And then we finally have a moment where Franklin and Louis speak. And it's sort of like the beginning of the villain story, if you will, for Louis, because she is ready to come in guns blazing with Franklin. Franklin comes up to her at the casket and is like, "Hey, auntie." And this is the first time I think he's used the word auntie. He's not called her Louis. He's called her auntie. So he's kind of reverting back to being like, "Hey, I'm trying to be at peace. Like, I know that there have been some things that have been messed up. Let me come up to you like like a nephew." And she's like, "What do you need from me, auntie?" And she's like, "I just need one question. Why'd you come back for me?" And Franklin starts off by this BS. Nobody's buying this response that he gives. But he's like, "Hey, it's a man's duty, and I can't stand to see a woman getting hurt. And I couldn't live with myself if something happened to you." There's a lot of bullshit being spread in this episode. And she calls him out on it. And she's like, "Is that it?" And she's like, "Also, you promised me that you would give me all the help that I can get in that warehouse." And she was like, "That's it. You felt that you had a one up, or I was helping you." She doesn't say this, but it's all processing. Like, you felt I had a one up, that I could help you out. The only reason I'm alive is because I could serve you for something. At that point, Louis is like, "You are the devil. You know that?" And Franklin takes off his glasses and kind of gives a smirk and smile. He's like, "Yeah, I know." And that's how the episode ends. it's an acknowledgement from Franklin to know that all the things that he's done, he knows he's a grimy ass dude. And now, for his money, he will be that devil. But he has now created another devil, and Louis is going to come after him. And while so she's going to be looks like she's grooming up to be sort of the villain to Franklin, but a lot of this is Franklin putting it on himself. So now we're in this weird for these last 3 episodes, is cat and mouse. Does Louis put Franklin in a position to offer him up to Teddy first, or does Gustavo get Teddy offered up to Franklin first? Like, it's going to be who gets what, who gets the one up on each other. It's going to be this gamesmanship for these next few episodes, or next episode, to sort of say who can get that leg up, and nobody is on anybody's side. It's going to be the wild, wild west. And I think this is a good sort of calm before the storm of these last 3 episodes, to sort of get us back, to put people back into the position to show the new hierarchy, the new powers, and also just take a moment to reflect on the character that was super important to basically everybody. Like that is the one character you take off. Probably Wanda would be the other, but that's the one character you take off that the fans just loved. And if you do that, you need to have at least one episode where we all sort of just woosah, take a breather, and reflect in that, and then see the pain and grief that comes out of it, because it affects so many people. Solid episode, obviously not the strongest, but a needed episode in the way that you can't just go intense. We need to have one moment where we pull back a little bit and show what's next. So what did you guys think about this episode called Charnel House, episode 7 of Snowfall? Leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast by the same name. That's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. I have slowed down on both the Bel Air and Picard reviews. Picard, I'll continue on. Bel Air, short answer, it's a lot of the same. And I have one recorded, I just never edited, and I have another one that I was prepped to do, and the more and more I think about that show, the more, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to continue on with this. But Picard, I will catch back up. But like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.